Although it may not seem like it, on average, the world is improving. Countries are growing their economies and populations and working together to build a stable global future. But not everywhere. In certain pockets of the world, war, chaos, and increasingly uncertain political instability are pushing certain nations straight toward their eventual failure. So we wanted to know which countries are at the greatest risk of collapse and why. Well, to find out, we can use the widely cited Fragile States Index, published by the nonprofit think tank Fund for Peace. Using 12 indicators covering social, economic, and political factors, the FSI ranks all United Nations members based on their likelihood of failing as a sovereign state. But although these states are considered fragile or failing by the Fund for Peace, many have criticized the index as being Western-centric and defeatist about struggling African nations in particular. Since 2014, the same three countries have ranked at the very bottom, and one of them is the long-struggling Central African Republic. The CAR, like most war-torn African countries, is the product of failed colonization by Europe following the 19th century partition of Africa. After roughly 80 years of French rule, the CAR declared its independence in 1960, but was far from democratic. Almost immediately, the government began suppressing opposition and was overthrown in a coup d'etat. The new government was best known for establishing a dictator who was alleged to have personally ordered the murder of 100 child protesters. Over the next 40 years, a series of coups, foreign overthrows of government, and false attempts at democracy led to multiple civil wars in the region, beginning in 2003. For the past decade and a half, the United Nations and the country's former colonizer, France, have attempted to reach peace between the country's many different warring factions, with little to no success. Today, the CAR is one of the world's poorest countries, and according to the UN's Human Development Index, has seen less development than any other nation on Earth. It's also consistently ranked as one of the most unhealthy nations, particularly in terms of hygiene, malaria, sanitation, lack of medical supplies, and most destructively, war. The country has even seen ethnic cleansing of its Muslim minority since 2013. Without the United Nations actively working to prevent a total collapse, the Central African Republic is the third most likely to fail country in the world. The second most unstable country is Somalia, which has been in the bottom three since 2007. Another victim of European colonization, this time by Italy and Britain, Somalia has struggled since declaring independence in 1960. Although somewhat stable due to a dictatorship, in 1991 the Somali Civil War broke out following the collapse of the Somali government. In the past 25 years, the country has been in an almost non-stop state of war, with religious and political factions alternately seizing territory and a steady growth of terror groups such as the Al-Qaeda-aligned Al-Shabaab. The lack of effective government has even led to pirates attacking ships near the Somali coast. Today, much of the country is still relatively lawless and in extreme poverty, with no real functioning economy or social services. But the most likely to collapse country in the world is also one of the most recently created. South Sudan only became independent in 2011, but has been engaged in a bloody civil war since 2013. As many as 300,000 people are believed to have been killed in just 2 years of fighting, with devastating ethnic violence and more than 1 million people displaced. In one notable massacre, members of particular ethnic groups and religions were executed en masse by former pro-government groups, and local radio stations broadcasted hate messages encouraging torture and murder. Attacks on hospitals, places of worship, and schools have left the country non-functioning and barely held together by UN forces. These three nations follow a pattern of post-colonial independence and subsequent fragility. They're all marked by ongoing conflict, repeat government turnover, violent insurgencies, and extreme poverty. With so many interrelated crises happening at the same time, these countries need the global community's help, and without it, are likely to fail completely. As one of the most likely to fail states, Somalia is subject to more terror attacks than almost any other country. To find out more about Somalia's history and its current struggle with terrorism, check out this video to the right. Thanks for watching Now This World. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos every week.